Okay, so welcome everybody. As Val mentioned, my name is Curtis Vanderven. I'm an ergonomist at OCal. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our official launch of our new app called Painpoint. You can see here it's available on all three platforms. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the background, how we sort of got to where we are today in terms of releasing this to the public. So a lot of the work that we do at OCal, because of our somewhat limited resources, is we really try and focus on empowering workplaces to be able to address a lot of issues on their own. And a researcher out of Belgium argues that approximately 60% of issues can be addressed on the shop floor by workers and supervisors, etc. When the issue arises, they can resolve it, find a solution, and move forward. On top of that, then you have approximately 25% that he calls the observation level, where that would be sort of the Joint Health and Safety Committee level, or a health and safety professional, somebody within the workplace that has a bit more knowledge or expertise, and that equates to about 25% of issues within a workplace. Then from there you have approximately 10%, which he calls the analysis phase or stage, and that's where people like myself, an ergonomist, an outside resource would come into a workplace and be able to support a particular issue or problem that with some assistance and some resources could then address the issue. And then from there, it's for the really smart people, smarter than me, the academics, the experts that would be called in on a very small percentage of the cases where something is really complex and requires a lot of expertise or outside knowledge and support. So at OCal, because of how we're structured and myself being the only ergonomist for Hamilton, for example, covering a very large catchment area, I'm not able to go to every workplace and obviously achieve that 10% for everybody. So a lot of our focus is on trying to support workplaces in that bottom 85. So where if they're given a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of resources, they're able to accomplish things in the workplace themselves. So the basis for the app is from this paper here that was published a little while ago. There's lots of different discomfort surveys out there. This one is the one that we've used for a number of years now in lots of different workplaces. And in the past, what I've done and what other ergonomists have done is actually distribute this survey in a paper form, or we've done digital fillable PDF forms. But it's more of a broad workplace scan to look for trends in terms of pain and discomfort in workplaces. And so here's just sort of a snapshot of what gets asked. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how much pain or discomfort do you feel in different body areas? And then how often do you experience that pain on a 4-point scale, of being 0 being none, D being always or all the time. And from there, we've even gotten into things like, well, I can't go to every workplace and distribute this survey and then collect it all and analyze all the data. So we actually went on to make an Excel tool that we can just email to workplaces, and we say, hey, you can do this survey yourself, hand it out, collect all of the data, and then enter it into the spreadsheet, and it'll spit out pretty charts, and you can start to see some of the trends that you might be noticing in your workplace in terms of an alarming number of shoulder pain or back pain, for example. And then from there, it ultimately got to the point of everybody wanting access to everything immediately, right? So instant access to information, everybody has digital devices and workplaces, and so how can we tap into that? How can we further that sort of 85% notion of putting something in workers' hands that they can then take action themselves without requiring outside assistance? And that's where the notion of this app came in. And so what has happened is we collaborated with the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety, the CCOHS, and we have 3 of them here today, Alan, Sue, and Leslie, so shout out to you guys, where we sat down and started thinking about how we might turn this into a tool that individuals could use rather than on sort of a workplace level. So what could an individual do with this type of information? How could we raise some awareness about musculoskeletal disorders or MSDs? And how could we get them to start moving the yardstick, so to speak, in terms of prevention of injury? So that came to the app itself. And so how it starts, there's just some screenshots for you if you haven't downloaded it yet. Is sort of just a general screen asking 5 general areas. We're trying to be cognizant of the screen size. So we tried to do, if I switch back to all of these, we tried to do all of this on one screen. I don't think people would be able to click on it very easily. So we had to try and brainstorm how we might be able to break that up. And you can note there at the top that it says regions. So you have 5 main regions and that you'd be able to click on. And then from there, we get into more specific body areas. And you can see we've got this slider scale now where you can slide the amount of pain you have from 0 to 10. And then in terms of frequency, you've just got 4 buttons there that you can click. And you would scroll down and do that for different body areas wherever you were experiencing pain at that point. And so you can see we've got both the pain intensity and the pain frequency there. And then you have the ability to select specific body areas. If you were using a tablet, for example, we've included a feature where you can actually drill down to specific points, as you can see here. So you can switch between regions and points depending on how large your screen size is and whether you can actually click on the wrist compared to the hand, for example. And then we get into exposure questions, because we want people to be thinking about not only where are you feeling this pain and discomfort, but what might be leading to some of this pain and discomfort. And so we have lots of different exposure questions on there, like do you do prolonged sitting, or do you do any lifting tasks, or are you exposed to things like vibrating tools or hand-arm vibration, as an example. And so you would simply scroll through these questions, answer a series of them related to exposures in your workplace, that then they could just be thinking about how this might be relating to their pain. And these exposure questions are based on research out of Washington State, and MSD actually is using these and doing some research on these exposure questions as well. So they've been modified a little bit, but that's the general idea and what we're basing this on. So again, we're trying to be very evidence-based and focusing on research that's already out there, tools that have been validated, that we can then build upon. And then, so from there, once you've entered the pain and discomfort, we get into the final section where we get into recommendations. So I don't have a screenshot of it, but it shows a summary of the pain that you've entered, so you can see visually where you've entered pain on different parts of your body, and it's color-coded based on the intensity and the frequency that you've answered. And then you also get workplace recommendations. So basically, for every exposure that you've answered, you're given 3 sort of general practical recommendations that you might want to pursue in your workplace. So you can see a couple examples on the screen there related to prolonged sitting and prolonged standing. So again, it's not meant to be very in-depth. It's not meant to be sort of a complex analysis. It's a very high level, simply trying to raise awareness of MSDs and exposures within workplaces, the hazards that are associated with those, and driving action, trying to get workers or supervisors or whoever it may be to simply start asking questions, maybe raise an issue with the Joint Health and Safety Committee, and start pursuing some sort of solution that they may be having a problem with. Nice feature within the app too, as well, is that you can collect these on an ongoing basis, and you can look at your historical pain history. So you could go back 6 months ago and see what type of pain you had then compared to now. And assuming you've actually taken some steps to resolve some of the exposures in your workplace, you might see a nice drop in terms of the pain that you were experiencing compared to 6 months ago. Whether that's the case, we'll see, but so for now, this is sort of a general sense, and then we also have a final section just talking about how to organize and start moving some of these issues forward if you're really motivated and have a concern that you want to see addressed. So from there, I just wanted to highlight again that you can download it, and we thought it very fitting to launch this app in October, since it is Global Ergonomics Month. So that was an initiative that was brought forward by the ministry and the prevention office to try and raise awareness about musculoskeletal disorders and how we can start addressing MSD hazards in workplaces. So I'll try and leave it there because I know we're tight for time, and I'll just finish with that slide, which is a nice little slogan that we have for the month. And it might be time for a question or two, I don't know. Yep.
Is there a way now to accumulate the data that individuals get on themselves and have a body mapping?
Very, very good question. We talked about this a lot. For the first pass, we did not want to be collecting personal health information. And so that has been a discussion with different research organizations. Could we partner on an ongoing basis to look at a future version that would actually collaborate and house all of the pain entry anonymously, that we could then look for trends and perhaps even ask things like sector or industry and start looking at real-time pain entry as you could consider a leading indicator. So that's something we talked about. We're not there yet, but I'm certainly interested in pursuing that. Okay, well, thank you very much.